Welcome to Open for Discussion as we celebrate Women's History Month. Joining us today is Eboni Morgan, a former blogger, now turned author. She's here to discuss her book, A Year of Black Girl Magic. I'm so excited to hear more about her journey and her book. I now welcome you, Eboni Morgan. Eboni, I'm so excited to have you here on Open for Discussion. I'm excited to hear about your journey and how you went from being a blogger to now an author to A Year of Black Girl Magic, which I started reading and it's amazing.
Thank you.
So tell me a bit about that journey. How did you transition from blogging to being an author?
Yes. Well, first of all, I'm really excited to be here, so thank you. My journey in blogging began when I was very young. I was 13 years old. And it began as a
13?
natural. I know.
That is young.
I know. I think back and I'm like, oh, you were
What
just
was I
so
doing at 13?
just so small.
Why weren't you my friend at 13? Wow, that's amazing.
It's funny because it was more so just here's a fun thing to do. Here's a fun way for me to connect with a community online. Right. And of course, the internet wasn't what it is now.
Yeah.
So at the point where I was beginning my blog, I just thought to myself, as somebody who's going natural and very young at the time, I had always seen a lot of older Black women going through their natural hair care journey. But I didn't see a lot of preteens, teenagers around my age who were embracing that journey. So I thought to myself, if I could maybe build that community or share some tips, maybe make somebody feel like they can also embark on that journey, then that's all I want to be able to do. So shortly after I began my blog as a hair care blog, I shifted into fashion. So not neglecting hair care completely, but I just found that I was passionate about other things.
And so more than just hair. So what are some of the things that you blogged about in terms of hair, like to encourage people? Like what were some of the, like give me an example of one of the blogs.
Yeah. Actually, I'll give you my very first one.
Ooh, yes.
Which was my big chop.
Oh.
So for those of you who don't know what a big chop is, it's basically cutting off all of your damaged ends. So I had permed my hair for I think I want to say 3-4 years. And then as a 13-year-old decided I'm just going to cut it all off, which of course freaked my mom out. But
oh my God.
I was like, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready.
And you decided that on your own?
I cut it myself.
Wow.
I cut it myself.
What made you like change to that? Like what made you transition to that? Did something happen or did you see something?
I was really inspired by other Black women that I was seeing go through that journey. And I personally started perming my hair, but always hated the process of it. It burned. It burns, yeah. It was not comfortable. And then I also was competitively swimming at the time. So two complete opposites where you're not supposed to get your hair wet. And I'm constantly getting my hair wet and upkeeping this hairstyle. So because I was so much more active, I thought to myself, it doesn't really make sense to keep putting myself through having to perm it, and it's also damaging my hair.
Exactly, with
my
the chlorine
hair.
And
the chlorine
and relaxer, those two mix. They
don't mix. They just don't
mix at all.
Oil and water.
Yes, exactly.
So after I realized that, and also in seeing the beauty in older women go through that process, I realized to myself, well, you know, I might as well embrace it now because I know at some point I want to be able to love my hair and love who I am in that natural state. So yes, even though 13 was so young, I thought, let me just go ahead and do it. And we'll see. So I stayed natural for about 10, 11 years before I started my locks.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, it's sort of like going through another natural hair care journey, which is so funny because it's like full circle and then a new circle in that same sense of relearning to embrace my beauty, not just with my hair loose natural, but now in locks, which for those of you who don't know is a lot. It's a commitment.
It's a commitment. It's a commitment.
Yeah.
So how long were you blogging before you did the full switch over into being an author?
Good question. So if I started at 13, so that's about 12 years blogging. Yeah, before.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a long time. And how often did you blog?
So I was blogging in the beginning, maybe about once a week. And then as my blog expanded, it turned into more so 2-3 times a week because I was doing hair care, fashion, lifestyle, all sorts of different things.
So there were more topics, right?
Yeah.
And you would say you were obviously consistent in it, right?
Yes.
So consistency is key.
It's
For
key.
those that want to blog, consistency is key.
It is. You never know
Yeah.
who's going to find your page.
Right,
You never know.
right. And so tell me what happened after, like what made you turn into an author?
Yes.
What was it that, that made you, change a leaf, a new leaf?
Yes.
What happened?
Yes. So the publishers actually reached out to me directly and mentioned that they had seen what I was posting online. They had seen my blog and wanted to offer me this opportunity to author a book. And in the beginning, I was like, there's no way. At that point,
so hold on,
backtrack.
So the publishers found you.
Yes.
They found you and they reached out to you to write the book.
Yeah,
That
did.
is amazing. You know how many people want to write books and they're looking for a publisher?
I know. And it's so funny.
Oh my gosh.
Because when you say consistency is key, I can't stress that enough. Because even though I was so consistent at the time when the opportunity came about, I wasn't writing as often. I was still posting on different platforms and still pushing my own content that I was creating.
Right.
But I wasn't writing the same long form content.
Okay.
So it was still keeping in mind that there's other ways to create and other ways that I can continue to expand what I'm doing.
Right.
Just because I want to, not necessarily because somebody's looking. But if you keep doing it because you love it and you're passionate about it, the right people will find it.
And you know what? You just said passionate about it. And I feel like that's probably the reason they reached out to you. Because you were passionate about it, it was obviously impacting people and they saw that. So they were able to reach out to you because of that.
Right.
So that's great. That's really, really good. Okay, so the publishers, they contacted you and what did they say?
They said, here's an opportunity. We really love this project and we think you'd be a great fit.
Wow.
We have 4 other individuals who are we also think would be a great fit. So could you give us a writing sample so we can see who this book best fits and who can really drive home the message that we want to share.
Wow.
And
sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Were the publishers, is it a big publishing company? Were they Black publishers or were they just a regular publishing company? I'm just trying to figure out how they even, other than obviously they seen your contact, but the fact that they even believed in because it was natural hair and fashion and stuff that you were talking about, and your book is called A Year of Black Girl Magic. So I'm just curious to know if they were they a Black publishing company?
Good question. So the publishers themselves aren't Black. Okay. The editor for the book and the team behind the book is Black.
Okay, but
including
that's amazing.
That's
still amazing to see that they saw that and they believed, they believed in. I love that.
They're also a data-driven publisher. So what I really liked about it is because so many things are available online and there's so many people doing things. They took the time to really niche down to what specific community they want to connect to. And personally, I've been building this community for years. It's not just, I take it very seriously, almost like a group of my close friends.
Exactly.
So for an opportunity to write something and basically dedicate it to them, Black women have always been the beginning, the middle, the end for me, everything. They're everything for me. So the first opportunity I had to really give back and to offer that and to also expand my own experience with writing, because yes, I was still writing about hair care and fashion, but they were also very intimate thoughts that I was having. So just things that I was learning in life and just growing through life, and also incorporating it somehow in a post in a way where you don't necessarily feel like you're reading an entire self-help post.
Exactly.
But here's a cute outfit and here's the thought behind it and here's kind of the lesson behind it. And it was a really interesting way to format it. So this now being a little bit different, where it's more so focused on how Black women can grow in love with themselves, was like,
so self-care,
self-love. Each month has a specific, I know we'll get more into it later, but each month has a specific theme, and that was very much me looking at my own personal journey and figuring out monthly what were the things that I was learning and what things can I offer as a lesson or as a sentiment of love and peace to Black women.
Right. So your book is basically daily affirmations, right? And why did you choose daily affirmations? Has daily affirmations impacted you, or has it changed? Did you by doing daily affirmations yourself, did you feel that it helped you? Is that why you decided to go ahead and do a daily affirmation book?
Good question. So each day has either a quote, an affirmation, or a reflection. So it is a little bit of a mix.
Okay.
But I didn't like affirmations when I first started. So my personal journey began many years ago, and I thought that it was so bizarre to look at myself in a mirror and to say positive things, no matter how much it was so easy to me to do it to other people. It was so much more challenging to look at myself and do it. So I just sort of dismissed it and thought to myself, well, I can do other things to care for myself. I don't really need to do that. And it wasn't until I started to build that practice, which it did happen before the book, but not nearly as consistently as during and then after the book, because I really found that saying these affirmations was more than just saying plain words to myself. It was actually speaking these things into life and speaking them into myself, right? It's a lot more than just, I'm beautiful, I'm great. Like,
you have to believe it.
You have to believe it. And if you can see it, if you can see yourself as that person that you want to become, who's great and beautiful, then speak that into yourself and you will become that.
Right. And I love that. It is Black girl magic, because I find with us Black women, it's really difficult to look at ourselves. We do have a lot of confidence, right? And everyone knows that. But one thing I've noticed is it's really hard for us to look at ourselves really natural, meaning no weave, no wigs, no relaxing, and say that we're fully beautiful. Yes, we believe we're beautiful as long as our hair is done a certain way.
As long as your nails are done.
As long as this is done a certain way. So I think it's amazing that, you know, you did start this process with the whole natural thing. So it's really it's really relatable. This is not just, you know, something that you're just, you know, talking about, but this is something that it's actually really impacting people, and a lot of young, you know, a lot of young Black women or Black girls that, you know, are struggling with this and don't really know, you know, how to deal with, like, you know, certain struggles or just, you know, certain insecurities. So that's amazing. That's amazing.
Thank you.
And I can't wait really to share this book. I'm going to give it to my goddaughter.
Every time I hear things
I'm
like
going to
these.
give it to my goddaughter because, like, one thing I love about her is she is natural and she really embraces it. But sometimes, like, she's dark skinned and she's beautiful, but she's always like, I wish I was a little bit, you know, like, because nowadays the boys in school, they only like, you know, the lighter skinned girls and stuff like that. So I think this will definitely, if she's reading it every day, seeing the reflection. And I actually want to read today's reflection.
Yes.
Okay, so, oh my God. And the colors are so pretty, guys. She signed it.
I had to.
Oh my God. I love this. The colors are so pretty. The colors alone are enough to brighten up your mood, you know, and just change your vibes, right? So I love that. Okay, so let me look for March. We're in January, February. Okay, so March 8th. Okay, so March 8th is Create Peaceful Mornings. For the next week, spend at least 15 minutes alone in the morning before starting your day. Taking this time before tackling your to-do list can do so much for boosting your mental wellness and setting a calm, pleasurable tone for the day. Even if the day doesn't go as planned, you can continue on knowing you intentionally filled your cup. As you grow on this journey, you could expand this time to 30 minutes or even an hour. Try not to spend any of this time scrolling on your phone and distracting yourself in other ways. I love that. That's really good. So you said here that even if the day doesn't go as planned, basically be proud of yourself because you intentionally took that time to, you know, to take, you intentionally took the time out to make sure that, you know, you had some one-on-one time with yourself, with your inner self, right? Why, like, what inspired you to write that?
I was never a morning person growing up, ever. As a child, my mom used to have to threaten me with a bucket of water to wake me up. Like, I slept like a log. And in getting older and growing up, I learned through athletics. So a lot of my practices with sports and different teams were in the morning.
Right.
And I always felt, one, tired, but two, when I woke myself up and felt prepared, I performed better. I felt better throughout the day. I was better able to handle things that maybe swayed me off of the path of what I maybe expected my day to be. And you can't control your day, so it's important not to feel attached to having a fantastic day every day, because we know
I love that.
every day can't be great.
That's really important for people to know.
It's life, but there are ways that you can equip yourself with mental tools so that you don't feel so heavy. And of course you'll still have sadness, you'll still experience anger, and you can, those are part of life, but there are ways that you can manage it. And I felt that dedicating the mornings to myself, especially as somebody who I live with my family, so having those moments to yourself before you're you for everybody else, it also gives you an opportunity to be more yourself. So get in touch with yourself, sit down with yourself in the mornings. What do you want your day to look like? Speak that into existence, and then you also can be the best you for everybody else and the people that you love. So if you're a parent, take that time so you can be the best mom or dad for your child, or the best parent, guardian, right? Or if you're a teacher, you know, take that time away so you can be the best teacher for your students. So it's all about kind of remembering who you are and always coming back to self.
So would you recommend that people start their day with the book?
Absolutely.
Or is it like any time of the day, but you recommend that they start it off in the morning?
Yeah, I would say any time of day. Of course, I don't always have, sometimes you don't have time in the morning. Sometimes the reality of it is, but when you have that consistency, when you don't have a morning to yourself, it's fine, because you've had the last 5, 6, however many days to yourself. So you can handle skipping one. But absolutely, I think one really great thing about reading this in the morning is a lot of the reflections and quotes sort of give you an idea to think on for the day, but it's also things that you can apply to your day throughout the day. So some of the reflections might talk about keeping calm or taking deep breaths, and you might realize, okay, now you're in rush hour traffic and you're getting angry because this guy just cut you off, but you remember, oh yeah, in that reflection it told me to take a deep breath, and you do, and it's that small, and you're like, okay, I at least you might not feel way better, but you might feel a little better, and that's better.
No, I agree 100%, because I do devotions every morning,
yes,
and it helps throughout the day, like, you know, so I get, it's like you meditate on it, right? And when you meditate on something, it's basically sitting and repeating something constantly in your mind, and it helps you throughout the day. It helps you when you face certain struggles. So I 100% agree with that.
Devotions are, honestly, it's something that I've started being more consistent with, and I agree completely. It's very much you devoting that time, right?
Exactly.
And that's exactly what it is. You have that opportunity to think on it, and look at how much better your day might end up being just from.
Exactly. And like you said before, even if it doesn't go that, you know, that greatly, which every day won't, at least you still know that, you know what, it's okay. Like it was just one moment, or, you know, whatever.
And today will be, tomorrow could be so much better.
Yep.
Right?
Every day is a fresh start.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
So we talked, so we spoke about self-love. Now tell me a bit about self-care. How do you show yourself self-care? Like what are some of the things that you do?
Great question. I love this question because as a content creator, a lot of the time folks will say, what's your favorite self-care product? And I'm like, it's not a product. So one thing I had to learn is that self-care is not one product or one bubble bath or one face mask away from you being a-okay. It's, again, that consistency and that discipline of you continuously carving out time to care for yourself. And that looks different for different folks. So there's lots of different ways. And I think another thing with social media and how it depicts self-care is that it's self-care looks one way and this is what it is, and it's very expensive and very
much so.
Yes, and very packed, but it can be something as small as just taking 15 minutes to journal, and you can get a journal from the dollar store. And it's just more so about how self-care feels versus how it looks. So not falling into this trap of I have to be this, and this to care for myself, but understanding and also knowing when to care for yourself. So sometimes people will say, now that I've gone through such a stressful week, now I'll take time to care for myself. When in reality, if you take those little 10-15 minutes throughout the day, it doesn't feel like such a big task at the end of the week to now care for yourself, right?
So you mentioned journaling. For someone out there that wants to start journaling but don't really know how to, like, what are some of the things you journal about? How does that look like?
My best advice is it should be like a stream of consciousness. So don't worry about spelling, don't worry about punctuation, don't worry, just focus on your thoughts and getting them onto paper. It doesn't have to make sense. I know a lot of people filter themselves when they journal. They're like, I feel like I have to write all of these positive things, but you don't. Your journal is your personal space to write whatever you want. So anything, if you feel really horrible one day and there's no one you can really talk to about it, you can turn to your journal and write out your emotions. And in that sense, you're building a relationship of trust with yourself because you're allowing yourself to be vulnerable in your own space, right?
Yeah.
And that's something I find personally with myself too. It's difficult to be vulnerable around other people, especially when you're not vulnerable with yourself.
Oh, that's true. I never thought about that. That's very true. So when you're journaling, right? And like you said, you know, you write out your thoughts, and how does it work? Do you go back and read it? How does it help? Is it just the writing? Sometimes is that the form of healing, the writing it down, or is it something you go back and read after? Like how does journaling really work?
Good question. I think it's both. I don't think there are really any strict rules with journaling, but I find that reviewing it and going through it again is helpful because, and this is funny because I never did that before until a friend actually recommended going through my old journals, and I didn't really see the value in it. Now I realize you're almost looking at your own thoughts once again at a previous time in life, right? And it could be something that maybe is constant. So if, for example, I know I mentioned having like lower self-esteem growing up. If I were to look back at my journal, I would constantly see that trend. And as somebody now who has worked so hard to get out of that low self-esteem, reading that is a way for me to also hold myself accountable to say, look at how many negative thoughts I've had about myself. How can I change that mentality, and how can I, moving forward, speak to myself in a different sense? So just reflecting also gives you a sense of where you were and also where you are now. So you get
to see your growth.
Yes,
so that's amazing.
exactly.
You get to see your growth. Wow. Okay, that's beautiful. So so journaling is one way for self-care. What would you say like are other ways that you could do self-care?
Another way,
you also said, I think you mentioned, take a few minutes a day just to do something that, you know, that's important to you. What else would you say is a form of self-care?
Definitely sisterhood. I'm going to say sisterhood because
I love that.
Yeah, I think Black women, the way that we interact with each other and love each other, like we already talked about this, but when I came in the room, we were just like,
it just flowed.
Like it flowed.
It flowed, yeah.
I think that's so healing. It's a sense of community
really
healing, right?
Yes.
And every time I've been in a room with all Black women, I have left feeling, one, way more in love with Black women and our community, but also with myself, because we mirror that same beauty. So if somebody, for example, maybe if you don't have close girlfriends or friends that you feel support you, then be your own best friend, be your own sister, right? Be that person who's there for you in the way you want others to be there for you. But realistically, in terms of community healing, sisterhood, if you can find somebody else who
network,
really,
if you like, there are
ways, and it does sometimes mean you have to be outside and talk to people. You have to put yourself out
there,
But look at the benefit, right?
Exactly.
You have
worth it,
lifelong friends who are there to support you, and I think it's also sisterhood in a sense of family. Like for me, my mother and my grandmother, both of my grandmothers and my aunts, they were always so close to me and always so supportive, and that was my first introduction to sisterhood. I also have a sister, so all of this sort of familial support from the lineage of women in my family really instilled in me how important it is to hold that sisterhood close by. Just being able to treat friends that way and people that I meet along life is beautiful.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. And I could see that everything that you mentioned is stuff that you're currently doing, because you're very confident.
Thank you.
Your aura, your energy is just so beautiful, and I really love that. Do you have any last words for our viewers?
Last words would be to always find the magic in yourself, even if you wake up.
What would you say that is? Like, what do you describe as the magic?
I think the magic is that manifestation of self-love, right?
Yes.
You love on yourself, you will always find something about yourself that, you know what, I love that about myself, or you know what, I really admire that about myself. Or in difficult times, you might say, I really appreciate how I dealt with that, or how I navigated that. And it's never ending. I think gratitude and being grateful for what you have and who you are is ultimately the way that you manifest that magic, because once you believe it, once you feel it, it's there. Everybody else will feel it, right?
Yeah.
It radiates off of you.
Right. Oh, thank you so much for coming on this show. It was amazing. It was a pleasure getting to know you, and I'm really excited to continue reading my A Year of Black Girl Magic. And you could get this pretty much on all platforms. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Where else can you get it?
You can get it on Indigo. If you just head to my website, all of the buttons are there.
Yes.
Which is just ebonycurls.ca. So
okay, so we're going to have everything. Yeah, don't worry. We're going to have everything up for you. Thank you, Eboni. Discussion. That was an awesome show. I cannot wait to see you guys next time. Make sure you tune in.